Oh baby, we're talking about Nyx this time. A Warframe that is often considered to be rather weak, Nyx is probably better described as a rather simple Warframe, with powerful but relatively straightforward abilities that modify enemies' status, causing them to attack each other or have a lot less defenses. Nyx's passive is an accuracy reduction for enemies shooting at her. At the end of the day, this passive means enemies will hit you less while you are playing Nyx. Just keep in mind that enemies already hit you less if you keep moving, jumping, and attacking. So that's still the best way to get enemies to hit you less often, but this makes enemies hit you even less often while you are doing those things that you should always do. Mind Control targets a single enemy. They become invulnerable for a short period of time, during which time they absorb damage, and then they start attacking their fellow enemies, and their fellow enemies can target them. If they took damage during that little invulnerability period, or stun, you might say, then they do more damage to their fellows. Now, enemies don't do much damage to each other because the amount of damage they deal is balanced against Warframes, which have much less effective health. However, enemies targeting each other can be very good. That keeps you much safer. I have invulnerability on just because I'm demonstrating these abilities, but as you can see, I am largely safe simply because there is another enemy that is drawing aggro from me. This is a little bit of a subtle thing, but it is helpful. It's certainly not useless. It's just not to be overstated how valuable enemies attacking each other is not very effective. Mind Control is also the ability that Nyx shares through the Helminth system. Psychic Bolts fires 6 homing projectiles that will hit 6 different enemies and remove their defenses. And you can only have one instance of this ability out at once, so it will hit 6 enemies, but then if you recast it, you can see that the original 6 enemies lost the effect, and then a new 6 enemies got it again. So 6 enemies at a time have their defenses greatly reduced. It takes very little strength for this ability to remove all enemy armor. Most of the time, this is a powerful damage increasing ability that allows you to remove armor from lots of enemies, kill them, and then just cast it again and remove armor from some more. It's also a one-handed action, meaning you can do other things at the same time. So you'll see here, I'll throw my weapon and also cast Psychic Bolts, and they can happen at the same time, which is powerful. Chaos allows enemies to attack each other. You cast the ability, and in a moddable range, enemies attack each other for a moddable duration. This is basically Mind Control, but on a ton of targets, and it doesn't have that invulnerability period damage thing. Largely a much more effective version of that ability. This will defend objectives, you will get shot a lot less. It's a very basic but good ability. It's just a long duration, large range radiation proc, but that's not bad. What is, at least arguably pretty bad, is Absorb. This ability makes you completely stop moving, you can't do anything, you can't cast any abilities, you start rapidly draining energy and absorbing incoming fire. Everything in the radius of Absorb is completely safe, but you can't do anything while you're casting it. You just absorb damage, and then when you end the ability, or when you run out of energy, it'll explode outward. You can also cast this ability and then just manually end it to do a damage burst. It's simply very slow. I think that this is one of the worst abilities in the game, but it can be used to defend objectives. It's just a much worse way to defend an objective than something like Chaos, which allows you to kill enemies while defending an objective. This ability defends the objective, but you might as well have AFK'd the mission, which is probably the worst possible form of defense. It also, I said it drains energy. It just drains an awful lot of energy, but theoretically useful for a few things here and there, just hardly a highlight. There's more to say about these abilities, but I've focused on only the most practical information and trying to give you a takeaway. What do you actually use this ability for most of the time? Is this ability useful most of the time? That kind of information, not every single detail about these abilities, not the augments for this ability set, and a lot of those things change a lot of things about how you might evaluate Nyx. I'm going to talk about those in my build videos, which we'll get to in a second, but if you want that information in its raw format, you can check the wiki, which I've linked in the description. Now that I've talked about Nyx's kit, I'm interested in showing you some builds. Behold, these Nyx fashion frame appearances correspond to the Nyx builds I want to show you in my other Nyx videos. The catch is that one of them is a complete meme. If you're from the past, I hope you'll have fun guessing what each of these might be, which one of them might be a bit silly, and if you're from the future, you'll find each build linked on screen and in the description, marked as a spoiler so you don't have to have its identity revealed if you want to guess. Now, I especially enjoyed making builds for Nyx because Nyx is a Warframe that kind of checks the boxes and that's it. I think a lot of people don't like Nyx or view Nyx as bad, well, because they don't understand what the abilities do, but some people do understand what the abilities do, and they don't like this Warframe because she is basic. She does basic things, powerful, useful things, almost universally useful, powerful things, but very, very simple, basic things. And I think that can actually create a very nice opportunity. Lots of room in the build, lots of modding space on the Warframe to add your own stuff to customize. And I look forward to talking to you about those in my other Nyx build videos. I'll see you there.